Okay, so we love getting these requests from you guys, and I've got to say, this one about the Walther P99 really caught my eye.
Yeah.
Not just because it's, a really cool gun,
Hmm.
but looking at the stuff you sent over, it's not even just one gun, it's a whole bunch of different variations of the same concept.
Exactly.
And that's what I thought would make a really good deep dive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
To kind of go through all of them and compare and contrast and see what's interesting about them. So what do you think is the most interesting thing about the P99?
Well, just from looking at everything you sent over, you can tell that this is a gun that Walther has really tried to make as versatile as possible.
Right.
And it seems like they've done a pretty good job of it,
Yeah.
because there are versions of this gun for pretty much every possible application.
Okay, so let's start with the basics.
Yeah.
The Walther P99 is a semi-automatic pistol made by Walther, a German company.
Correct.
And, they also make the Walther P22, which is a .22 long rifle. And one of the articles mentioned that the P99 is basically like the Geroder on Udeberer of the P22.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like the big brother.
Okay. But the P99 comes in 9mm and also .40 S&W, right?
That's right.
What are the differences?
So the 9x19, or 9mm parabellum, as it's often called, usually has a magazine capacity of 16 rounds.
Okay.
Whereas the .40 S&W usually has a magazine capacity of 12.
Gotcha. So a little less firepower in the
less.
.40, but I guess bigger bullets.
Yeah, bigger bullets, and depending on what kind of stopping power you're looking for, I guess that would influence your choice.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty here. There's all these different models.
Right.
The first one we've got is just the model P99,
Right.
the basic one, and it's got all these specs here. A length of 180 millimeters, a height of 135 millimeters with 29 millimeters, a barrel length of 102 millimeters.
Mm-hmm.
It weighs about 630 grams. So can you kind of put those specs into context? Like, what does that mean for how the gun handles and feels, and what is it for?
So those dimensions are pretty standard for a full-size service pistol.
Yeah.
Which is essentially saying that this is a gun designed to be comfortable to grip and stable to shoot.
Okay.
It's not too small to where it's hard to control.
Gotcha.
It's got some weight to it, so it helps absorb recoil, and it's meant to be used in rapid fire situations and things like that.
So if it's too light,
exactly,
it's going to be hard to control.
Exactly.
Interesting. It says here the trigger pull is 4,000 grams in double action.
Yeah, so that's
But only 2,000 grams in single action? What's the difference?
So double action, single action, it's a trigger system where for that first shot, you have to both cock the hammer and release it with the trigger.
Okay.
So that takes a heavier trigger pull.
Gotcha.
After that, the cycling of the slide cocks the hammer for you. So every shot after that is going to have a much lighter trigger pull and be much faster.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting. So the first one's basically like a safety.
Kind of, yeah. It is a safety feature.
Okay, cool.
It's to prevent accidental discharge.
Very cool. Okay, so then we have a similar model, the model P99 in .40 S&W.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some slightly different specs. It's a little bit longer.
Yes.
It's 184 millimeters long. And the barrel is also a little bit longer, 106 millimeters.
Right.
And it's just a little bit heavier, 655 grams.
Mm-hmm.
Why the slight differences?
Well, the .40 S&W is a more powerful round.
Okay.
So they've had to adjust the size of the gun and the barrel slightly to accommodate that round.
Okay.
Also, with a more powerful round comes more recoil, so they've got to add a little bit of weight to help absorb that.
To make it controllable.
Exactly.
All right, cool. Next, we have the model P99 QA. And I love this one because this is the one that was developed specifically for special units.
Yeah.
So QA stands for quick action, and it's got some pretty unique features. For example, the striker is half pre-cocked.
Yeah. What does that mean?
So basically, the trigger pull only completes the last little bit of the cocking before firing.
Oh, wow.
So it's a super short trigger pull.
Okay.
Only 6 millimeters of travel.
That's insane.
And the trigger pull is a constant 3,200 grams.
Okay.
And they've also made the decocking button smaller on this model to prevent accidentally decocking it.
So this is a gun where they've really thought of everything.
Yeah, they've really fine-tuned it.
To make it perfect for these.
Very specific users.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have the model P99 military.
Right.
And it looks like this is pretty straightforward. It's identical to the standard P99, but it has a matte green polymer frame.
Yes.
So what's the point of that?
It's mostly an aesthetic difference and for tactical purposes.
Okay.
The matte green finish is going to help it blend in better in a military environment.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it's not as flashy.
Gotcha. Oh.
It's more subdued.
All right, cool. Now, this next one's really interesting. It's the model P99 Deuter.
Or P99 La Chasse. What does La Chasse even mean?
It means the hunt in
really?
French.
Oh, okay, I see. So is this like a hunting pistol?
Well, it's designed for game wardens specifically.
Oh, interesting.
So it's got a polymer front sight and then colored polymer dots on the rear sight. But then it's also got this walnut wood grip.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting combination of modern and traditional features.
Okay, what's the point of the colored dots?
So the colored dots are meant to make the sights easier to see in different lighting conditions.
Oh, okay.
Which is really important for game wardens who are often working in low light.
Gotcha. So they can line up their shot quicker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they can acquire their target quicker.
Makes sense. And then finally we have the P990 DAO, which is double action only. So what's the deal with that?
So the double action only system means that every time you pull the trigger, it cocks and releases the hammer.
Okay.
So there's no lighter trigger pull for subsequent shots. It's the same every time. It's a 4,000-gram trigger pull and a longer 14-millimeter trigger travel.
Gotcha. So it's heavier than the other ones.
It is heavier.
Okay. So what's the advantage of that?
So the main advantage is safety. It's much harder to accidentally discharge a double action only pistol.
Okay.
Because you really have to pull that trigger.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay.
It's not as good for competitive shooting because you don't have that light trigger pull.
Right.
But for, everyday carry or law enforcement or military use where safety is paramount, it's a good option.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So we've gone through all the models now, which is pretty crazy how many different ones there are.
Yeah, it's a really diverse lineup.
But let's talk about who actually uses these guns in the real world.
Okay.
So we've got a list here of a whole bunch of different law enforcement and military organizations all around the world.
Yes.
So in Canada, we've got the Montreal and Quebec City Police. In Finland, the Finnish Defense Forces use it, but they call it the PIUF 2003. Germany bought a whole bunch of P99 DAO pistols for their North Rhine-Westphalia police back in 2005. In Ireland, the Garda Síochána na hÉireann, I hope I'm saying that right.
We got it.
Which is their national police force. They use it. The Royal Malaysian Police in Asia, they use it. The Netherlands Police and Customs, they have their own version called the P99Q and L.
Yeah.
And then Poland and Spain also use the P99 for their police forces. So, I mean, that's a lot of different organizations all around the world.
It is. And it really speaks to the global appeal of this weapon.
Yeah.
Clearly, they've hit on something that a lot of different agencies find appealing.
What do you think that is?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors. I mean, obviously, reliability is the key for any service weapon.
Right.
And Walther has a really good reputation for building reliable guns.
Yeah.
But I think it also goes back to the versatility we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a model of the P99 for pretty much every need. So any agency can find a version that works for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we talked about the different models. We talked about who uses it.
Right.
Now for the fun stuff. This is like a little bit of trivia that I found that I think is really interesting. So James Bond, the famous British spy.
Of course.
Well, he's had a lot of different guns throughout the years.
Right.
But starting with the movie Tomorrow Never Dies, his standard weapon became the Walther P99.
Really?
Yeah, I know. Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
I thought that was so cool. So before that, he used the Walther PPK and PKKS for years and years and years.
So classic.
And then even before that, in like the very first Bond movie, he used Beretta .25.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how his choice of weapon has evolved over time.
Right.
What do you think about that? Like, what does that say about the P99?
Well, I think it says that the P99 is seen as a very modern and capable pistol.
Yeah.
I mean, James Bond is all about having the latest and greatest gadgets and weaponry.
Yeah.
So for him to switch to the P99, I think it says a lot about its reputation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like an endorsement from the coolest spy in the world.
Exactly.
So we've really gotten a good look at the Walther P99 now.
Yeah, we have.
It's a really interesting gun.
It is.
We've got all the different models, the 9mm, the .40, S&W.
Right.
the QA, the military, the deuter, the DAO.
It's a lot.
It really is. It's a big family of guns.
It is.
We talked about who uses it,
Yeah.
all these different law enforcement and military organizations around the world.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to highlight because it shows that this isn't just a novelty gun or a gimmick.
Right.
This is a serious tool
Yeah.
that's trusted by professionals who put their lives on the line every day.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we have this really cool connection to James Bond, which just adds a whole other layer of coolness to the P99.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to be a reliable and effective gun,
Right.
but to also be the gun of choice for the world's most famous spy.
It elevates it.
It elevates it, yeah.
So before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay.
You know, we talked about all these different versions of the P99 and how they're all designed for different purposes.
Right.
What do you think that says about the way guns are designed and developed?
Well, I think it shows that there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to firearms.
Yeah.
Different users have different needs and priorities.
Totally.
So gun designers have to be very thoughtful about who their target audience is and what they're going to be using the gun for.
Right.
And I think the P99 is a great example of how a manufacturer can take a basic design and adapt it to meet a wide range of requirements.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the QA is all about speed.
Right.
The DAO is all about safety.
Exactly.
The deuter is like a weird hybrid
It is a weird
of
hybrid.
traditional and modern.
Yeah.
So they've really thought of everything.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's a really great point to end on.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening to the deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And be sure to check out the show notes for links to all the sources we used.
Yes.
And as always, if you have any suggestions for future deep dives, just send them our way.
Yeah, we love hearing from you.
See you next time.
See you next time.